A question I get asked quite a lot on a regular basis is regarding the plant indexing system and also the yellow labelling system I use. Rather than keep answering the same questions, I thought I'd compile a little video like this and then put it up online. What I've done, I've trawled through the questions over the last few months, and I've just done a little crib sheet so that I don't miss any out and cover all the bases hopefully. So basically it's two systems that have merged naturally together. One, as I say, the indexing system where each plant gets identified, and also then the yellow electrical type system that I use. So let's look at each one individually and you'll see how they merge together. First of all, we'll look at the plant indexing system. Like most keen novice gardeners, the first year on my allotment, I wanted to grow as much food as possible. So there was no half measures. Every seed packet, I had to sow it. I think in my greenhouse, which was an 8x6, same size as the ones I've got now, I managed to ram in 16 tomato plants and 8 cucumbers, and that all them was grown in grow bags. Despite that, I got a lot of fruit off it, and there was hardly any airflow in there, but I still managed to do it. That wasn't a problem until I started to look at the brassicas, and again, because I was sowing full packets, I was getting 2 or 3 variety of cabbage, a couple of variety of cauliflower, and then I got calabrese, Brussels sprouts. As you can imagine, as they started to germinate, there was literally hundreds and hundreds of seeds. Now, to an untrained eye, all brassica seedlings, until they get past the cotyledon seed leaves, they all look very, very similar to each other, which ain't a problem really, because they're all in one pot, and that's cabbage variety so-and-so, that's cabbage variety so, and that was it. It wasn't until I come now to pricking the seedlings out and potting them up individually, well, as you can imagine, there's like hundreds and hundreds, and writing a plant label for that, and I started doing that, and very soon my enthusiasm waned a bit, and I ended up probably doing 20 plant labels, and I'd get a tray of plants, put the label in, and the trays I use, I can get 15 pots in there, but if I got like 33 pots, that'd be 2 trays worth and 3 left over, so I'd put them in a tray. And I did this with each variety, and I got dozens of trays of these plants. Come planting out time onto the allotment, I stacked all the trays up neatly and started planting away, and just grab a plant, plant it. All the cabbages are over here, so I'll grab one of them. And then I turned round, it was shock horror. I realised I'd planted the pots with the labels in. I've got trays then of just plants. What variety are they? So as you get more experience, you can see subtle differences, especially with the brassicas. You might get a variation in the leaf form. It may go a bit wavy, or even the colour might be slightly different, which again is a different issue for me. Anyway, I think Lady Luck deserted me then. I started planting out what I thought was the varieties, popped them in, and very soon, within a few weeks, I found out I got a cabbage ground with next to a Brussels sprout, a bit of calabrese. It all looked neat, and that was good companion planting, but it got some strange looks. I managed to get some crops off there, but there was people, I noticed experienced gardeners, looking strange. I'm sure it was the topic of conversation for quite a while. Anyway, I saw the season through and reaped what I could, but come the winter, I was trying to think, well, how can I stop this happening again? And as usual, the seed catalogue started dropping through the doors and browsed through, and I started making a list, and okay, I'll grow that, grow that, grow that. And very soon this list starts to grow long and long, and I thought, blimey. So I started totting these up, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then it dawned on me, each variety a number. If I give each one then, I needn't bother writing the name, just put the number down as a reference. So I pops onto the computer and to do a little spreadsheet, and I then created what's now as my working plant list, which is this kind of thing here. It's just a blank sheet. It's actually 1 to 100. Down the left hand side the numbers, and I've done it so there's 20 numbers on this sheet, so I always print 5 off on here. And then what I did, because this was going to be in the greenhouse, I laminated in each sheet because I put some papers in there, scribbling names down, and leave it overnight. It gets damp, it starts to crinkly. But with the lamination and the Sharpie pen as well, that writes lovely on top of the laminated. So it's that's the way I started. So what happens now, as I start sowing in the greenhouse, I use the first available number, write the plant name down, like cabbage and the variety, Clapton or whatever, and then I'll keep going down in sequential order. The master list is actually on my computer. It's a spreadsheet, it's an Excel sheet I got, and that there is the master, although I do like to keep this what I call the working copy. I've got a server I built upstairs which like stores all my computer stuff and that, and I can access that from my phone, MacBook, iPad, or wherever you are, providing you've got internet access. And but I always keep this. I like this working copy because it's a manual thing, and I could actually put an entry on the phone while I'm in the greenhouse, but electronics and gardening allotments don't get together with me. So to play it safe, I just fill this sheet in manually with the Sharpie. And at the end of each day, I'll look at what sowings I've added that day. I take a photograph it, and then when I come indoors of an evening, I just update the master list on the computer, and then it's done. So going back to the way the plant indexing works, when I get a packet of seeds, I add the entry onto the side, the first available space onto here. And then once I've done that, I'll find out the container what I'm going to use. It could be a full tray, quarter tray, half tray, even a square seed pot or something. Once that's done, I'll then prepare the label on the yellow tape. Now, with the yellow tape, make sure that the surface is dry and clean, smooth if you can get it. Press the tape on, it will stick, but if it's damp, you'll find it'll lift off. So once the tape's on, then I mark on the index number, which is the one we've allocated on the chart, the variety of what it is, and also the sowing date. Now that stays with the group of plants as they're germinating, but once the plants get pricked out onto the ground, the individual pots, all they take with them then is the identifying number, the seed number. It's exactly the way a database works. If you add an entry into a database, it issues it with like a unique key number, and that's all this numbering system is. So it's that follows the plant all the way through its life till it goes into the ground. I did mention earlier that I could access the master database on my phone or computer, whatever, and that's off my server, but you don't need that. With cloud access now, most people who have a smartphone can create a file and then store it so it's accessible wherever you are. There's things like Google Drive and Dropbox, iCloud's another one, so whatever you want, whichever one's your preference, you can use that. The yellow plant labels evolved because a long while ago, when I was actually going for interviews for jobs as a young lad, one of the companies I went through had to do a colour deficiency defect test, and it's basically a test for colour blindness. And I found I got a thing called deuteronomy, which is, I think that's the correct word anyway. It's where greens and browns mix, and are sometimes reds, but it's mainly in low light conditions. But I can confuse reds and greens will merge together. If I've got something green and red in two hands and look, I can actually tell the difference. But once it gets farther away, they actually merge into each other. So that was an issue. And the other thing I have is contrast. If I get a white plant label and write with a pencil on it, I have to concentrate really hard to distinguish, to get it to separate. But I noticed that by something with a yellow background, anything on there, it like jumped out. So particularly using a Sharpie on a yellow background, I had no problem seeing that at all. And that's the way it started, using, for the small labels and the indexing numbers, I use it's just electrical UPVC tape with a mark with a Sharpie marker. The good thing about these are waterproof and all, but as I said previously, you must make sure the surface you're applying it to is clean and dry. Otherwise, it just lifts off. You've probably seen on the allotments and all that I do use the bigger plant labels, and for that I use the wider. This is got a roll there. This is what they call gaffer tape. But also, yeah, I've got a roll of yellow gaffer tape as well, or that's what I tend to use that because I'm colourblind on certain colours. Green and brown definitely, sometimes a bit of red. And I find the best contrast I have, the more it's easier for me to see. So I find that yellow and black work really well. They do a similar thing and all, a bit narrower, and this is a lot smoother, and this is called duct tape. With the gaffer tape, it's got like a cotton fabric back, and sometimes that can peel off. Both of these will last a season outdoors with a marker on, but I've got some tape on some of my bins outside, the coffee bin and also one of the leaf mould bins. They've been out there this is probably the third year, and the marking has started to go faded a bit. So any permanent marker with a thick tip bullet pen, anything like that, it lasts well over the season. So that's the two tapes I use. For the plant labels, I've got a good mate who's got his window business, and quite often he'll drop me some polycarb sheeting round. But the thing I like is he uses this window board, which is about 6mm. It's white plastic. What I do with that, I got my table saw and I rip it down into about 30mm widths. So it's probably that long and all. And it makes ideal plant labels. But again, to get the contrast, I just put the yellow gaffer tape on the top and then mark it with a black pen. And that does a fine job, and it works. So people quite often ask where I get the tape from. Well, if you're in the UK, any DIY store will sell the gaffer tape and the electrical tape. Stuff like Wix's or Toolstation, Screwfix. If you're over in the pond in America, I suppose people like Walmart or stuff like that, or Home Depot, you'll get it from there. Because I tend to use it a lot. I buy mine off their well-famous auction site, and I buy like 10 rolls at a time. So that's it, the complete system, the way I do my marking and labelling and that. It is a good system. I say it has worked for me. I've used it for, I think it's about 4 or 5 years now, and it's nice to see other people on YouTube gradually using different slight variations of it. So it is a system that does work for me. As I say, the database, it's as good as you keep the information up to date. I'll keep my master up to date on the computer after I've copied off the working sheet, which is in the greenhouse. So that's about it. I hope that's answered all your questions. I've tried to cover all the bases. If not, leave comments below and I'll get back to you. And I'll just check if I've missed anything else. No? So many thanks for watching this. If you're not subscribed already, there's a little button down in this corner. If you press that, you'll become a member of the MuddyBootz trail. And also press the bell icon, because then you'll be informed when I upload a new video. So that's all from me. Many thanks for watching, and I hope to see you in the next episode. Bye for now.